Okay, so we were in the Gemara, just to quickly run through the Gemara again. We spoke last week about the Yisodas of the Machlekes Abaye Rava. Eid Zomem Abaye Amar L'Mafreyu Nifsal V'Rava Amar Mikanu Lahabu Nifsal. So the discussion was when you become an Eid Zomem and the Mazimim come in and said Imanu Ayisem, and we finished the Psak Din and it's established that you're an Eid Zomem, we're going to give you Kasher Zomam. So what happens with the past Eidus? What happens with certain shtaros, that you were signed on, that we were assuming that you were a kosher aid? Do we kick it back l'mafrei, or do we say that it's only once you're established to be an Eid Zomem mikana lahabo? So that was machlekes Abaye and Rava. Abaye amar l'mafrei nifsal. Abaye says no, he should go back, and we should now invalidate all of the eduyos that were said prior, because me'idno da'asid, because at the time that he was made Rashahu, he was a Rasha. V'atayr Amar al tashis yad chaim Rasha, al tashis Rasha aid. The Torah says you're not allowed to use a Rasha as an aid. So how do you get around the fact that at the time that he gave all of these future Eidiuses, that was post his original Eidus, which was his Meiser Rishus, which established him to be a Rasha? Rava Amar Mikana Lahabu, and so Rava says no. Eid Zomem Chidishu. Since the whole concept of Eid Zomem is a Chidish, Maichaz Desamchas Hahani, Smaicha Hani, because intuitively, you really shouldn't believe one set of witnesses over the other witnesses. So therefore, and the Torah says, Afal Pichin, you should believe the second set of witnesses. So we have a concept in halacha. Whenever we're dealing with something that's counterintuitive, whenever we're doing something that's a yotze min haklal, which is the definition of a chiddush according to Chazal, it's a yotze min haklal. It doesn't fit the regular rules and regulations. So then you should only say it at the point in time that the Torah was mechadish it, which is when he becomes and he's established to be an Eid Zomem. There's another version of Rava. Rava namik Abayis, really. Rava really, in theory, agrees to Abaye, and fundamentally, we really should kick back the psul limafreya retroactively from the time of the Eidus. Umay tam kamer mikana lahaba, and why does he practically argue and say that the invalidation is only later on from the time that he becomes and gets the status of an Eid Zomem? Says the Gemara, Mishum Pseidu L'Kuchos. It's a Takanim D'Rabbanan to make sure that the world of commerce still is able to function, and therefore Midrabbanan Chazal were machshir other L'Kuchos. So we discussed a discussion amongst the Rishonim is that limit to the L'Kuchos. What happens if it's business without a pseida the L'Kuchos? What happens if it's the area of Gittin, Kiddushin? Is there pseida there? So that was a discussion amongst the Rishonim. How expansive is Rava's Takanim D'Rabbanan over here? But fundamentally, he agreed that it wasn't a Chiddush. Two versions. My Beinayu, what's the practical implication? Ika Beinayu da'asu be trei dechad. The nafkamina is when you have two Eidim that testify against one. Why? Because if it's two against one, so intuitively, that's not a chiddush. Again, we discussed briefly, we really should come back to it, but we discussed briefly last year that how do you have two against one? Meaning, shouldn't you always have two if they're coming and they're collecting as two witnesses? So we discussed different variations. Maybe they were at different windows. They never came as one cot. Whatever it is, there's some sort of case that the Gemara is saying that there's something that's lacking in the chiddush because you have two against one. Inami de paslanu begazlanusa, or they passel them with gazlana. So in any of those situations, it's not a chiddush. So that would be the nafkamina. If you understand that pseida de l'kuchos, by the way, just parenthetically, if pseida de l'kuchos is lav dafka, so the Gemara should have said a very simple nafkamina, right? If pseida de l'kuchos is dafka, so the Gemara should have said nafkamina where there's no hefsid. That should be in the nafkamina. That should have been a straight up intuitive nafkamina, and the Gemara didn't say that. It seems to be that pseida de l'kuchos is not necessarily so literal. So that could have been a very simple answer. So then the Gemara ends off, and the Gemara just says, we paskin like Abaye over here, that Eid Zomem is l'mafreyu nifsal. Okay. So, this is a very, very big sugya. We just started discussing last week, understanding what the machlekes Abaye and Rava is. Is it a machlekes if it's a chiddush or not? Is it a machlekes if it's a hanhaga, if it's a psak? That was what we discussed last week. The different mahalchim amongst the Rishonim and the Achronim, how to understand the fundamental machlekes Abaye and Rava. Now I want to go a little further and discuss what the second Tosos leads us into on the Gemara and Daf Chav Zayin Amud Aleph. So before we get to Tosos, the second Tosos, if you could just pass me the Gemara Bava Basra. Oh, you gave it to me? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. I have it. Okay. So if you look, the Gemara Bava Basra, right. So the Gemara Bava Basra, here. This Gemara that looks like this, sorry, it's all cut off, with the fat Tosos, that's a Gemara Bava Kama. We're not up to there yet. That's going to be a Tosos that we're going to need. But if you look at the Gemara Bava Basra, in Cheskas Habatim, so the Gemara starts towards the bottom. It's the one that looks like this. The last word in the daf is Ba'avosa. So the Gemara has a fascinating debate, which is very relevant to our Gemara. Gemara says like this: Ze omer shalavosi, the bottom of the Gemara, the two dots. Ze omer shalavosai. A guy comes. All of Cheskas Habatim is about debates about who owns this property. I say I own this property. That's the whole concept of chazaka. Is all from this parak in Bava Basra. The third parak of Bava Basra is you have to hold on to your shtar for 3 years. After 3 years, if it was eating peiros for the 3 years, so then there's a chazaka that a person doesn't have to hold on to his shtar anymore after 3 years, and I eat peiros and that no one was ma'ar, no one tried to kick me off, then that's cheskas gimel shanim. How that works, that's for the third parak of Bava Basra, but that's what's called the raya of chazaka, cheskas gimel shanim. So Ze Amar Shalavosai, this guy says, I claim that this was my father's. V'Ze Amar Shalavosai, and another guy says, no, it was my father's. Machlekes, whose house it is. Hi Aise Sadi Davase. This guy brings Eidim that it was his father's. Va'achla Shnei Chazaka, and he ate for 3 years of Chazaka. V'Hai Aise Sada Achla Shnei Chazaka. And the second guy brings a raya that he ate there for 3 years. He didn't have Eidim that it was his father's, right? Amar Rav Nachman, so what do you do with such a case? Uki achila lebahade achila. So we take the hakchasha, we say achila counters achila, right? V'uki ara b'cheskas avasa, and we establish the land based on the one who has cheskas avasa, right? He had 2 rayas, this guy had 1 raya, so the guy with the 2 rayas win because the other edim can't cancel each other out. Amar le Rava. So Rava says, "Ha'edus mukhashasi." How can you accept any testimony here? But there's a hakchasha in the edus, and from the fact that there's a stira, that should be problematic. Amaleni he diskachish ba'achilasa ba'avosa ma'eschachish. Mara says no. The hakchasha was by the achila, by the raya of eating gimel shanim, but by the father. There was never any counter testimony against that. Fine. So then the Gemara goes on and says, let's remember this is Rava. So Rava is on our Gemara, so we have to remember this is Rava. Leima Rava v'Rav Nachman beplugta d'Rav Huna v'Rav Chisda k'miflagi. So this debate of whether or not you should throw out the edus completely, because once there's any amount of hakchasha, so now we should throw everything out. Or do we say, no, dissect it. What there's achasha about, we'll throw out, and what there's no achasha about, we'll accept. So maybe this is the old machlekes between Rav Huna and Rav Chisda. What's the machlekes of Rav Huna? De'itmar, beis kitei demamachisha zu. What happens if you have a regular achasha, 2 sets of edim that contradict each other? Rav Huna zu b'fnei atzma me'ida, v'zu bo b'fnei atzma me'ida. So Rav Huna says, what's the problem? The Gemara wants to know, can they, when you have 2 edim on a case that are made and they cancel each other out and they contradict each other, can they now be kosher edim for a chasana tomorrow? So Rav Huna says, why not? Zuba b'fnei atzma me'ida. Zuba, we're neutralized in this case. We can't accept their edus for this case because there's a contradiction, there's a suffix about the case. But the 2 edim, they have a cheskas kashrus. What's the problem? Let them be made tomorrow about the case. Rav Chisda Amar, Bahade Sade Shakre Lamali. Chisda says, no, you had a contradiction in any case. You are suffik puzzle for every edus now until forever. You're suffik puzzle. Because Bahade Sade Shakre Lamali. So the Gemara says, Lema Rav Nachman Amar Karav Huna v'Rava Karav Chisda. So it sounds like Rava says whenever there's a contradiction, you become puzzle. And Rav Nachman holds like Rav Huna, who was Mekel on that Shaila. So the Gemara says, I'll leave it to Rav Chisda Kuli Amalo Pligi. Ki Pligi, I'll leave it to Rav Huna. Rav Nachman Karav Huna. Rava Adkan Lo Kama Rav Huna El Eidus Acheres. Avala Also Eidus Loi Hader Aisi Sadi Davasi. So the Gemara says, no, over here it's the same case. It's also Eidus. What the testimony about eating on the field and having the father is all like considered one Eidus. So once you're contradicted by that same very Eidus, the Akosha works for Avasa as well. But not necessarily that Rava holds always that, like Rav Chisda, that anytime there's Akosha, even for independent Eidus, even for a Chasana tomorrow night, that you're automatically going to be... No, that's not comparable to our case where it was also Eidus. Good. So now we have the background. Now we'll look at Tosfos by us. Says Tosfos, Mashma, Rava said in our Gemara by Zomem, Ein lecha elecha bo elechidusho. So Rabbi say, before I get to Tosfos, let me just let's work a little bit. What's Tosfos gonna be bothered by? Is this such a chiddush? What did the Gemara suggest in Baba Basra? The Gemara suggested Baba Basra, and for a few good lines, thought, how do we set up the machlekes? Rava and Rav Nachman is the machlekes, Rav Huna and Rav Chisda. So who do we match up with who? Rav Chisda was the one who says anytime you have akasha, the Eidus is thrown out. The Eidus is thrown out, right? Why? Because Bahade Sadeh Shakri Lamali. Why am I going to deal with liars? These guys, this is a suffix puzzle. So what? So Frek Tosfos. So what's such great shakes about Eid Zomem? Rava holds like Rav Chisda. So if by akasha, anytime you have a contradiction, you're puzzle. So then what? So you should be puzzle by hazama. So what's the whole Gemara of Ein lecha bo ela michidusho? This is such a chiddush. Hazama is not a chiddush. Frek Tosfos. What? And Rav Chisda is not lamafreya? Bahade sadeh shakri lamali? Do we have any rayas? I don't understand. 1 second. Bahade sadeh shakri lamali by akasha, right? You were made. There is no other point in time that you could create by hazama. You have a second status of when they paskin Eid Zomem. But when we have a suffix in your Eid, we don't know for sure you're lying. But at what point in time did you do a Maisa Isser that's Mesupuk?
Oh, so by Hachasha.
By Hachasha, it has to be Lemafrei. It has to be B'Shas Eidus.
I mean, Lemafrei, when we say by Eid Zomem Lemafrei, we mean from the point that you did
Eidus. Eidus.
Not before that point. So,
no.
So by Hachasha, it's just the time you get nailed, you get caught red-handed, and the time.
But we're gonna. But
everything you said till now goes away.
But let's say it wasn't. Let's say we were 3 weeks in between.
Yeah.
So l'chara we'd passel all the edus that you signed, all the stars that you signed from the time that you were made. That's bahade sadeh shakri lamali. Rav Chisda would rip out all those stars. You're a suffix liar then. That's when you did your Ma'aser Rishus. Rav is coming and saying by hazome it's when you get the status of Eid Zomem. But according to Rav Chisda, so then it's at the time of the edus. So that's what Tosfos asks over here. Mashma da chidush havim masha ani poisel sarishonim. Tema. Baba Basra lamed aleph amabeis. Kalmar. Lema Rav Domer Rav Chisda Domer bahade sadeh shakri lamali. Umifsali shtei edus afilu b'ukhshu ba'alma. Demikchasha adodi tarvayu psili. Vim kein mai chidushu. Gabi hazama. Ipasli edem arishonim. Frek Tosfos, you already have such a chiddush even without hazama. What's the approach by Akosha? We passel them. And the Gemara links Rava to Rav Chisda. So the Gemara links Rava to Rav Chisda. So why is Eid Zomem such a chiddush? What? Eid Zomem is deraisa. Akosha is deraisa. Oh, it's interesting what you're saying. Karanoira says exactly what you just said. Karanari says, no, maybe Rav Chisda was only Midrabanan. Bahade Sadeh Shakri Lamali is a Chumra Dirabanan. Excellent, that would be a simple answer. But from the fact that Taisus doesn't answer that, L'chora, you see Taisus held it's a Psul Daraisa. You're right. The Karanari says like that, and the Karanari says that's the simple answer, is that Gemara Babas is Midrabanan, and this is Midraraisa. Excellent. But L'chora, Taisus doesn't hold like that. Oh, excellent. So I think Itai is 100% right. It's B'Torah Suffolk. What does that mean? Let's just understand what Itai is saying. So when I have a suffix, let's see what Itai is saying from the Taisus and Bava Kama. Turn to the Bava Kama. Taisus speaks out what Itai is saying. You see where in the Taisus Dira Maschal Ein, in the fat Taisus, so there's a parenthesis with Shvuas Daf Mem Ches on the first word on the line, right? So Taisus is asking our same kasha from Baba Basra, and Taisus towards the end of that line he says Va'oid yesh leimer. You with me? Everyone with me?
16 from the bottom.
16 from the bottom. Okay. Or just look for the parentheses. Va'oid yesh leimer. Till Rav Chisda nami have a chiddush mashenif sal and vadai. V'hai de choshev leisade shakre b'shtei kitei edim eina ela misveika. Exactly what Itai just said. Rav Chisda is misafik. Eit Zomem chidushu rava? That's vadai. Okay, and therefore what? Ve'im hoyu shnayim min hashuk meidim pleni lova mi pleni. What happens if two guys are made? A was borrowed from B. Mana achas. $100. Va'achas mishtei kitei ha'edim alolu ha'machisha zu Amrit loy lova. And then another set of edim say, no, they didn't borrow. Lo hayisi moitzi mamon misafik. So I don't have the ability to be moitzi mamon. He could still hold on to it because why? In this situation with akasha, he has safik edus. So how can you be moitzi mamon? V'ilu amezimin poslin. It should be poslin. Poslin legavre afilu lahachzik amamon al piem. Hilka chidushu. Taisus says a very simple teretz. Taisus says, no, the Gemara is a suffix. So if it's a suffix, so in areas that sveikas help us, namely what? I'm not trying to be moitzi mamon, but I want to know, can he hold on to his money? So now we say, yeah, he's a suffix right now, so he can hold on to his money. So if we have a stira, whether or not there was a halva, let him hold on to his money because he has edim potentially that might be right. Safik monolakula. But if you get into the parsha of Azoma and Rava tells you a chiddush that what? No, the other edim are possible to as vadai. So then he can't even hold on to his money. Now we're going to be moitzi mamon because now we have a raya brura. So Taisus says a simple teretz. Yeah, you're right. Intuitively, Rava would have passled me safik, but passing me safik doesn't answer all your questions. There's still going to be issues. I'm going to be machzik the mamon in such a situation. How do I know that I'm not even allowing him to hold on to his money and I'm going to be motzi the mamon? That's the chiddush of azama, and that's only mikshas chiddush be'elach. That you wouldn't have known intuitively. Very simple teretz.
So why do you call him 8 sheker? Maybe he doesn't use misafik, so it's misafik. But the Gemara seems to emphasize the fact.
It's not 8 sheker. He doesn't say, Rav Chisda doesn't say they're 8 sheker. Rav Chisda says, I don't want to live my life like this. Bahade Sade Shakre Lamali. Which means basically, if I know that somebody's lying over here, so let these guys do. Testimony's not their forte. You know? Yes, correct. But I can't passel them b'turas vadai, so therefore I just say, in totality, I know that someone's lying over here, so I'm just going to throw them all out, misafik. But the problem is, Rabbi say, Taisus doesn't answer like Taisus and Bava Kama. Such a simple teretz. The sugi is not a steer at all. One's misafik, one's going to be machzik mammon, not going to be mitzi mammon, and one's going to be mitzi mammon. And yet Taisus doesn't answer like that. Let's see Taisus. V'yeshleimar. Taisus says, yeah, enachanami, it's a great kasha. Yeshleimar, de lamai de boy lameimar hosam. When you learn Baba Basra, Meikara, the Rava Svirle de Rav Chisda, that Rava is linked to Rav Chisda, and Bahade Sade Shakri Lamali works with according to Rava. Hainu Lelishna de Pseida de Lekuchos. You're right. That can't work with the Lashon of our Gemara, who presents Rava as Eid Zomem as being a Chiddush. Says Taisvis, when the Gemara in Baba Basra wants to link Rava with Rav Chisda, which means that I'm going to invalidate him, Bahade Sade Shakri Lamali like Rav Chisda, that can't exist within the world of Rava says, Ein Lecha Ela Bo Ela Michdush Ve'elach. Because that's not a Chiddush. Because you see even Hakosha, you invalidate them and you throw them out. So therefore, Tosfos says you have to say that the sugyas are not connected. The sugyas were going within different lashonos, and that sugya only goes within the Takanim D'Rabbanan and Pseida D'Lekuchos. But you're right. Fundamentally, Bahade Sadeh Shakri Lamali and Eid Zomem is not a chiddush because you already got to where you are even within the world of Akasha. Apella. Look what Tosfos is doing. He's mamish contradicting Gemaras. He's making this Gemara contradict the Gemara of Baba Basra. He could have just said simply what he said in Baba Kama. Why did he not say like the Gemara of Baba Kama? Let's go on in Tosfos. The Eish Mefarshim, and there's another pshat. Tosfos says, "Tahad Kamar Hacha Chiddush." That which the Gemara says it's a Chiddush, Lava Psula de Kamoi Koi. You're right. The fact that we passel the first Eidim, that's not a Chiddush. Why? Because I already knew that from Hakosha. How do you know that the Mazimim are kosher? Because by what? By Hakosha, what does Rav Chisda say? Somebody here is lying. So what? So we passel everyone misafik. And yet what? By Hazama we say the second set of Eidim are kosher. So that says Tosfos, that's a Chiddush. That's what the Chiddush is. We're pointing the arrow against the wrong cat. The fact that the first cat is pasul, that's not a chiddush. The fact that the second cat is kosher, that's the chiddush. Says Tosfos, I'm going to prove it to you. And since, says Tosfos, listen carefully to what Tosfos says. Since you find a chiddush within this parsha of Eid Zomem, namely by who? By the Mazimim, not by the Muzamim, right? Lo yalfinan af legabe hapsul lepoislan klau. Says Tosfos, once I find a chiddush anywhere in the parsha, now I now consider the entire parsha a chiddush, because namely what? Because now I'm going to say that even the Zomemim are only pasul when? Mikana lahab. This is a fascinating Tosfos. Again, if I ask you right now, the second day in Tosfos, is the fact that the Eidim Zomemim that got nailed, Ibanu Ayisem, the fact that they're pasul, is that a chiddush? Says Tosfos, absolutely not. I knew that already from Baba Basra, Bahade Sadeh Shakri Lama. So what's the chiddush? What's Rava talking about? Says Tosfos in the second day, the chiddush is that the second Eidim are kosher. That the second Eidim are belief. Because that's not what I would have said from Baba Basra. Good? Now, I have a question on Tosfos. So why are you only invalidating the people that are intuitively invalid? Only mikana lahaba mishas chidusha ve'elach? Says Tosfos, you know why? Because anytime you have any part of a parsha that has a chiddush within it, so then the whole ganze parsha now is considered like a chiddush. Even though intuitively I should have said, and in the world of Akasha, I'm going to passel them from before. Okay? Says Tosfos, how do I know this? Do I have any proof to this? Says Tosfos, yeah, I have a proof to this from Basar v'Cholov. Wow. Listen to what Tosfos says. V'chayven de'ikar chiddush lo yalfin and af legabe apsula postan klal arishonim l'mafreya v'chiyai gavna amrina peragid anosha. And this is what we say in peragid anosha. The Gemara wants to know, how do you know that tam is ke'ikar? How do you know that if I have a taste that absorbed into a piece of meat or into something else from non-kosher, how do I know that tam now could create an Isser D'Oraisa? That even though I'm not eating the actual chazer itself, but I have a taste of that tam, that also can trafe up my pots, that also can trafe up my meat, that also can trafe up wherever the blia absorbed into. How do I know that tam is ke'ikr? So it says the Gemara, why don't you learn it from Basar v'Cholov? If you have Basar that absorbed some of the tam of Cholov, what? You say it's an Isser D'Oraisa. So let basar v'chalav be the source for tam ke'ikr. That if a piece of flesh now had an absorption of tam of chalav, that's an Isser D'Oraisa. So the Isser, basar v'chalav, should be the source for tam ke'ikr. Says the Gemara, that can't be the source. You can't learn tam ke'ikr from basar v'chalav. The Yolafin and tam ke'ikr mi basar v'chalav. Why? Mishum de'ikr bo chidish. Because basar v'chalav has a chidish. What's the chidish? Behetera. When they're matir. The itaru leichal b'kula yayma shari ubabishal chadasha aser. Says the Gemara, you know why you can't learn tam ke'ikr from basar v'chalav? Because basar v'chalav is an anomaly. It makes no sense. If I soak something, any isser, into another, into a liquid, and now absorb it through 24 hours through the medium called kavish k'mavushal, you don't need any heat in order to create isurim. Even if something soaks in something for 24 hours, so that now creates a bliya asura from the other item. Yet when it comes to basar v'chalav, that's not the case. When it comes to the basar v'chalav, the Gemara says derech bishul asra Torah. The only way for you to have real bona fide basar v'chalav is you got to turn on the stove, you got to have some water, you got to heat it up, you got to cook it. And if you didn't cook it, there's no isser. So says the Gemara that what basar v'chalav in its heter is a chiddush. Since if you would use kavish k'mavushal, if meat would soak in milk, and there would be no flame, no fire, no cooking, there wouldn't be an Isser D'Oraisa of basar v'chalav. So since it's mutter itaru kula yaima, and the bishul is only what's aser, so therefore that can't be the source for tam ke'ikr b'kol Torah kula. That's so says Taisus. You see that even though what its chiddush only applies where? By the heter side. Now it's not going to be a source for the Isser side. So says Taisus, this can be the source for what I'm trying to say, that anytime you find that there's a chiddush in one dimension of the parsha, like Zomem, by the fact that the mazimin are believed, so therefore it's now going to even be considered a chiddush, even legabe the zomemim, even legabe the witnesses that intuitively we would have invalidated, and therefore it's not going to be lemafreya. Give me 1 second, because I think I'm going to ask your question within Reb Kiva Eger. Says Reb Kiva Eger, look at the Gilyonis, his notes on the Taisus, and Gilyon Hashas, says Reb Kiva Eger, I don't understand this tzushtel at all. Says Reb Kiva Eger, you're comparing apples and oranges. This makes no sense. Let's read Reb Kiva Eger. The second line in the Gilyon Hashas, you see it's under the Bach. You see, here I am. That's where That's where Reb Kiva Eger is saying, I don't understand at all. The Hasam Shayach Loimar, sometimes my Talmidim read a Reb Kiva Eger like that. They're like, oh, I'm good company. No. The Lo Zachisi Lahavin of Reb Kiva Eger is a totally different Lo Zachisi Lahavin. That's Lo Zachisi Lahavin. The Hasam Shayach Loimar, Kavan de Dina de Basar V'chalav, Chidish Lekula. No. There, it makes sense what the Gemara says. Again, what the Gemara say? The Gemara says, since by Basar V'chalav, there is a Chidish Lekula, so therefore what? That can't be the source for tam ke'ikr. Lo yalfina minei shum davar de dilma gama chumra de tam ke'ikr hu chidish rak b'basar v'chalav. So maybe that therefore now invalidates this to be a source for tam ke'ikr, because just like there's a kula in tam ke'ikr of basar v'chalav, that when it's going to be mutter, so too maybe the chumrah is also unique and limited to basar v'chalav. Therefore, don't use this as the source for kol Torah kula for tam ke'ikr, because maybe that's part of the chiddush. Just like it had such a chiddush laheter, so it could also have a chiddush le'isr. It plays by its own rules. That's what the Gemara was saying. That's why basar v'chalav is not a good and valid source for the rest of kol Torah kula. But what are you comparing that over here by hazama? Says the Reb Kiva Eger, aval hacha hapsulim darishonim lo tzarech lemelef klal mehazama ela demisvara hu kemo kol shnei kite edim hamechish. Says the Reb Kiva Eger, but over here, the fact that the first edim are puzzle, I don't need to learn that in hazama. I already know that from Hakchosha. So says Reb Kiva Eger, that is not comparing apples to apples. Now the fact that you found that part of this parsha is a chiddush, now you're going to apply that chiddush to the fact that the Eidim Zomem are not going to be possible mafreya? Why? If I already established that klal, why would you imply that and now say that the chiddush of the second Eidim are now going to change something that I already established within this parsha? Says Reb Kiva Eger, one has nothing to do with the other. The other one was talking about this can't be a source because of the chiddush, whereas over here, you already established that they're puzzle. So why should the fact that the second Eidim are going to be kosher, we're going to change Dinei Mominus based on this halacha? Rebbe will say it doesn't make sense, says Reb Kiva Eger. V'Hashem Yair Einai, says Reb Kiva Eger, I don't understand this. Kadosh Baruch Hu should open up my eyes to be able to answer what Tosfos is comparing over here. Yeah, Eitan. You're right. There's going to be difference, and Hazama is much more mechudesh, and there's going to be practical implications. But as for Kiva Eger, look what you're doing over here. You're now taking something that, through the rules of Akasha, you should be pasal mafreya. And now, because there's a chiddush legabe the second kat, now you're telling me that that's not true anymore? How's that possible? What happened? So I think you're on the right track. It must be something about Hazama that's being mechadish that to us that perhaps can shed light and to introduce. But Rabbi Kiva, just to understand what Rabbi Kiva is saying, what happened to the Akasha over here? He says, Lefachos, you're right, it's more. But Lefachos, it's Akasha, says Rabbi Kiva. So how do you now say with a straight face that these two Eidim that now are getting Hazamified, right, that are Zoymimim, that now we can say, oh, that's only Mikana Lahaba. What? So what happened to the Akasha? If it was a world of Akasha where it would be a lesser of a psul, where it would be a suffix, you would have threw them out from Lomafreya, and now you're telling me that it's fine up until now, and all the shtaros and all the chasanas are good? How'd that work? Yeah.
Akasha always it goes to the guf hamaisa, what you're saying is sheker.
Oh.
Hazama is never saying you're sheker. You may very well tell the truth. It's not sheker. It's just that you can't be Eidim. That's what Akasha is. So it's not shtei kitos.
Hazama is not sheker.
It's not necessarily sheker.
I would say that it's more. It's sheker b'teres v'adai. Imanu ayisim, you telling me edus on this?
Right.
I am now saying I'm now saying these
Right.
people.
No, I'm not saying. These people might be. He might be chayav, but you can't be a nay. So you're not Eidim.
That's true. You're right. I'm not dealing with the facts of the case, but I'm definitely dealing with the psul of the first guys.
It's not a tray.
It's not a straight trade. That's true because I didn't deal with the facts. You're right. But why should that not be now the fact that we're invalidating Lamafrei? Meaning it's more than Akasha, no? Yeah, Mark.
Is Kovish Doraisa by other Isur?
Yeah. That's what you see from this Gemara, right?
I don't understand Tosos saying that the Chiddush is on the kashrus of the Basrei if they were never possible because there was no Akasha on them.
Again, what?
Tosos is saying the Chiddush is on the second kat.
That they're believed.
They're believed, but
Right.
they were never possible. There was no
Meaning
Akasha
what?
There was no Akasha on them.
Well, I think that's what Tosfos assumes. I think Tosfos assumes any time I testify with Itai about a case, so I'm testifying that anyone who's saying that I'm not that I'm testifying falsely, I'm testifying about them that they're liars. Implied, like what Mark was saying, implied in my testimony is that anyone who's going to contradict this testimony is now going to be a shakra. So yeah, Itai.
Could it be that Zomem is more kal than Hakasha? In that you have, the original assumption is opposite, is that Zomem is much worse. But maybe the chiddush is we see from the mazimin that they are not, made puzzle. So maybe the Zomem, the fact that they are made puzzle, is.
Beautiful, yeah. So I think I'm gonna collect what everyone's saying over here. That I think that is part of the chiddush of Hazama, and I think we just flesh it out. I think we can answer all these kashas and perhaps create a mahalach to answer perhaps Reb Kiva Eger, and perhaps the reason why this Tosfos did not say like Tosfos Mabakama, which would have been a very simple teretz. So again, Tosfos is saying v'yesh mefarshim The hadakam arhacha chiddush lava psula dekamoi ela achshera de basrai. So there's a chiddush hatayra. What's the chiddush hatayra? The chiddush hatayra is that the second kat are ne'emon, are kosher. The second kat's kosher, they're believed. Once that chiddush hatayra is registered, so then the fact that the first guys are puzzle is no longer is now implied through that chiddush. I mean that's interconnected. When you have a Gemara in Baba Basra that says Bahade Sade Shakre Lamali, right? You have two Eidim that are testifying against each other. Everyone is suffix puzzle because they're made against each other, because they say the facts are like this, and this guy says the facts are like this. So now implied in their Eidas, each one of them is saying is that the other one is a suffix. The other one is possibly a shakran. And I'm being made that he's a shakran, and he's being made that I'm a shakran, right? Once the Torah is mechadish to me, that what? Is mechadish to me that the second kat is Ne'emon, so then automatically the first kat in that chiddush is puzzle. So Mimela, that's going to be the answer to Reb Kiva Eger. You don't look, the Parsha, I think this is what you were saying also, Eitan. The Parsha of Azoma basically tells you that once you know a chiddush that the second kat is kosher, so now included in that chiddush is the fact that the first kat is going to be puzzle. That's what we're going to believe one over the other. We don't. Rabbi Kiva Eger is saying separate between the two. These guys are puzzle, and this guy is a chiddush. No, the fact that the second guy is kosher, that now is eradicating this from what? From the classic world of hakosha. Now you don't have the old problems that Rav Chisda has in a case of Shnei Eidim HaMachishim Zu et Zu. And that's exactly why it doesn't come out to be Akosha anymore. So now, Rabbi Kiva Eger, we can address Rabbi Kiva Eger's issue. It's not two independent things. Rabbi Kiva Eger says, by Basar v'cholav. No, it's the Parsha that has the heter is now going to be affected. If that could be, maybe that's a limited source where the Isser of Tam Keker is going to apply. Maybe the two are going to, but over here says Rabbi Kiva Eger, I know already that the Eidim Harishayim are puzzle. From Akosha. No, you didn't know it b'Toras Vadai. Now that you know it from the second kat, where's the chiddush, says Tosas. The chiddush is that the second kat are Eidim Ksherim. Once the Torah says the second kat are Eidim Ksherim, what does that basically mean? Means take Rav Chisda and throw him out from this case. That doesn't apply anymore. Once that's the case, so then Memela, interconnected to that is what? Is the Psulim Arishainim. Is the Psulim Arishanim. So the Psulim Arishanim is totally on the Eidim Ksherim, the Chiddush of the Chiddush HaTorah, that the Eidim Hashniim are Ksherim Gumurim. If that's the case, so then what? Intuitively, what do you say? So this Chiddush HaTorah about the second Eidim that now is eradicating any details of Akosha and going to throw out a Rav Chisda Akosha B'Hadei Sadei Shakri Lamali. So now, how do I address what? When it should become puzzle? It should become puzzle from the Chiddush. His invalidation is changed from the Chiddush because this doesn't become a Hakosha anymore. So therefore, the answer to Reb Kiva Eger is they are connected. Because now you don't have a second kat that's now countering that second set of Eidim and saying, no, maybe you're a puzzle. No, the Chiddush HaTorah was that these guys are Ksherim B'Vadoim. Once these guys are Ksherim B'Vadoim, so then what? So then that affects now the nature of the psul on the first ones also. So that's going to be Mishas Chidusha Ve'elach. That's going to be Mishas Chidusha Ve'elach. Why don't you say, ask me a question. Okay, fine. So B'Toras Vadai, you're going to say that it's only Mishas Chidusha Ve'elach. But why don't you say that at least it should be what? Hakosha? At least B'Toras Safek, we should throw out the Chasanas and the Eidim from Rav Chisda, from Lamafreya, from the past few weeks. So l'chora, what you see from here is that no. The second the Torah was Mechadesh Hazama, that now blew out any Hakosha anymore, and Baba Basra doesn't apply anymore. There is no Hakosha anymore. Once Hazama is introduced, and that's the Chiddush, that these second Eidim are believed b'Toras Vadai, now we don't even look at it as if there's Hakosha anymore. There's no Hakosha in this case anymore. There's no second Eidim that are contradicting. There's no Hakosha. These guys are the MS. Those guys are not, and therefore that's the whole nature of the case. And therefore the invalidation is not even misafek from beforehand, because we don't even look at it as a hakasha type issue. Perhaps, if this is correct, and everything is now changed from the chiddush of believing the second kat b'toras vadai, right? So perhaps that's the answer to the first kasha also. We started the shira, Bosai. Why didn't Tosfos and Sanhedrin answer the simple teretz of what? Of what? Of suffix. Of saying that what? That would be b'toras suffix. That would be b'toras suffix. If it were just ha'achasha, that would be b'toras suffix. And if it's hazama, it's b'toras vadai. So the answer is, because once you have the chiddush of hazama, there is no suffix. It's not true anymore that there is even a suffix in this. The din of Eid Zomem now totally throws out any inkling of any akash anymore. So Tosfos didn't even want to go down that route, because Tosfos didn't even want to be moideh that there's any form of akasha in this case anymore once we believe the second kat. Tosfos understood, like the Yesh Mefarshim, once Hazoma tells you, believe the second kat, so then there's nothing countering, there's nothing that smells of Akash anymore, there's no Bahadei Sadei Shakri Lamali of Rav Chisda, and everything's off the table, and there wouldn't even be a Hakasha or the dinim of a Basra whatsoever from this din. I want to leave off the Olam with a kasha that you'll have 2 months to think about. Rabbi say, who do we paskin like Rav Huna and Rav Chisda? Shnei kidi edem amachishim zezuz. Important halacha to figure out, to know the halacha. You have 2 akasha. Who do we pass like? So the emes is the Shulchan Aruch paskins like Rav Huna lekula. We don't say bahadei sadei shakar lamli. We say zuba ave b'fnei atzmo meidu zuba b'fnei ametzam meidu. Every aid on their own can now live on their own independently. Can go to the chasana tomorrow night, and they can be. The fact that we were contradicted in court, so that invalidates me for that technical court case, but it doesn't now affect other eduyos. But the problem is, ask the Ktos HaChoshen, and the problem is, Shulchan Aruch paskins in the following case. 2 Eidim come in and say, Eitan's puzzle. Then 2 other Eidim come in and say, no, Eitan's kosher. Gemara says that Eitan's suffix puzzle. So, Frek the Ktos HaChoshen, Akasha, I don't understand. If you're telling me that we paskin like Rav Huna, by that each one of them could live, and we don't take akasha, that we don't throw it out. So why, if you have akasha about a puzzle, now do we say that he's suffix puzzle? Doesn't that smell, says Rav Chisda, doesn't that smell like you're paskening like Rav Chisda, and now we have a stira in Shulchan Aruch? So you'll let me know in 2 months. Shkayach. Yeah, well, any case is how he passes.